In this video, I would like to talk about the Western liberal principles and the ideals of freedom struggle, which are there in our directive principle state policy, or directive principles which are related to Western liberal principles and ideals of freedom struggle. So, Western liberal principles and ideals of freedom struggle. So, both of them I am clubbing because not many Western liberal and ideals of freedom struggle are there. So, first of all, in the Western liberal principle, in the Western liberal principles or values which are incorporated into our directive principle. First of all, we can say 39A, Article 39A, which was added into our constitution through the 42nd Amendment Act. It says equal justice and free legal aid. Okay, this deals with equal justice and the ideals of freedom struggle, which are there in our directive principle state policy, or directive principles which are related to Western liberal principles and ideals of freedom struggle. So, Western liberal principles and ideals of freedom struggle. So, both of them I am clubbing because not many Western liberal and ideals of freedom struggle are there. So, first of all, in the Western liberal principle, in the Western liberal principles or values which are incorporated into our directive principle. First of all, we can say 39A, Article 39A, which was added into our constitution through the 42nd Amendment Act. It says equal justice and free legal aid. Okay, this deals with equal justice and free legal aid. The state shall secure that the operations of the legal system promote justice, quite natural, on a basis of equal opportunity, and shall in particular provide free legal aid by suitable legislation. The 39A talks about free legal aid, meaning if a person if he is not capable of even appointing an advocate for his case, free legal aid should be given. See, this free legal aid is not the charity of the government, it is the duty of the state. In fact, the Supreme Court also mentioned, the Supreme Court has very clearly mentioned that free legal aid is not a charity of the government, but in fact, Supreme Court even said that this free legal aid, the right to free legal aid is under Article 21. It is an inferred right under Article 21. Supreme Court even said that. But Article 39A talks about the state shall provide free legal aid by suitable legislation or schemes or in any other way to ensure that opportunities for securing justice are not denied to any citizen. So, the opportunity for securing justice should not be denied to any citizen by reason of economic or other disability. Because of lack of money, a person should not be denied of his justice. A person shall not be denied of his justice only because of financial or economic or other disability. That is what. So, Article 39A, which was added in 42nd Amendment Act, please remember, equal justice and free legal aid, and the state shall provide free legal aid by suitable legislation. That is what mentioned in Article 39A. It's a Western liberal principle, no doubt regarding this. Then coming to another Western liberal principle is uniform civil code for all citizens. I will talk about uniform civil code separately, but Article 44, it talks about and Article 44, it talks about uniform civil code. See, uniform civil code, UCC, uniform civil code means, and when it comes to personal law, see, the criminal law, we have codified it. For all citizens in the country, we have similar law. But when it comes to personal law, the law related to our, some of the personal issues like marriage, divorce, okay, adoption, succession, inheritance, maintenance. So, in our country, unfortunately, because of our religious nature of our society, we have different personal laws for different communities. We have 3 different personal laws in our country. We have personal laws for Hindus, and this Hindu personal law is applicable to Sikhs, it is applicable to Buddhists, and it is applicable to Jains. So, the Hindu law is applicable to 4 communities. Then we have Muslim personal law, and then we have Christian personal law. So, we have 3 different personal laws. One is the Hindu law, then Muslim law, and then the Christian law. So, all are different, and in all these 3, the common thing is there is lot of injustice to women. Please understand, we have in the personal law, because of our patriarchal nature of the society, the common thing in all the 3 is injustice to women. So, when we talk about this uniform civil code, our aim, the constitution makers, it's as a part of the Western liberal principle, we have incorporated into our Indian constitution, and the aim, what is the aim? It is not uniformity. Please don't mistake, uniform civil code's aim is not, it is not uniformity. Aim is not uniformity. The aim is to bring in a modern, liberal, gender sensitive code. What is the aim? Aim of uniform civil code. Please don't forget, it is to have a modern, liberal and gender sensitive, or there should be no injustice to women because of the personal law. That is the aim of our uniform civil code. So, it has not been implemented even today. We are still talking about that. We should have been implemented long before. But unfortunately, because of the politics associated with it, because of the suspicion of various communities related to the need for uniform civil code, we have not implemented it even today. So, but Article 44 talks about it. I will be dealing this uniform civil code separately. So, I will be discussing another video separately about uniform civil code. So, that is Article for a Western liberal principle, uniform civil code, Article. Then similarly, Article 45. So, the present day Article 45 is slightly different, has been modified, it has been amended. It is about education. It was amended through the 86th Amendment Act. But earlier, the original Article 45 is, the state shall endeavor to provide free and compulsory education to all children below the age of 14. The state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children below the age of 14. So, this was the original Article 45. But after the Article 21A, the free and compulsory education for children between the age of 6 to 14, when it was introduced, Article 45 was modified. Okay. So, earlier what was there in Article 45 already said, the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children below the age of 14. This is the original one, but now after 86th Amendment Act, the new Article 45, it says provision for early childhood care and education of children below the age of 6. Provision for early childhood care. Provision for early childhood care and education to children below the age of 6. Below the age of 6. Provision for early childhood care and education to children below the age of 6. So, we are talking only about 0 to 6 age group in Article 45. Earlier it was below the age of 14. So, 6 to 14 we have incorporated in Article 21A. So, Article 45, the new Article 45 this. So, now with the new education policy which has already been, the draft policy which has been announced by the government, there is a provision for taking care of the children right from the 3 years onwards. So, let us hope how it will be, let us hope that it will be implemented properly, because early childhood care is an equally important component. Education, see, most of the things what we learn, what we know, and we have learned how to speak, how to walk, the social life, everything we started, from our mother or from the parents, from our family. So, that early childhood care is a very important component. So, that is why we are incorporated as article part of Article 45 right now, and ideally, the right to education, Article 21A should have been talking about that 3 years onwards, but unfortunately we have not done. It is still a directive principle only, but in the new education policy, slowly the government is realizing that we have to take care of that 3 to 6 age group also, not from 6 to 14. So, that initial age is equally important. So, let us hope it will. So, that is about Article 45, that is about early childhood care, a Western liberal principle. Then Article 48A. Article 48A, again added by 42nd Amendment Act. 42nd Amendment Act, the protection and improvement of environment and safeguarding of forest and wildlife. Environment and protection of safeguarding forest and wildlife, and safeguarding forest and wildlife. Safeguarding forest and wildlife. So, this again, see, this was added in the 42nd Amendment Act 1976, but it is a Western liberal principle, absolutely no doubt regarding this, and the Stockholm Summit, the Earth, environment, the first environment summit which was held in 1972, where it talked about the need for protecting our environment. For the first time, after that we incorporated into the Indian Constitution. It is a Western liberal principle, and it is very important. Today we know that we are so much worried about our sustainable development. And protection of forest and wildlife is a very important component of that, and we have incorporated that article, or rather this directive principle, as 48A. And similarly, one more Western liberal principle, that is Article 50. So, this is 48A, protection of environment and forest and wildlife. Now, coming to Article 50, very important. Article 50 deals with the provision of separation of judiciary from executive. So, separation of power. Separation of judiciary from executive. See, the state shall take steps to separate judiciary from the executive in the public service of the state. See, there cannot be, if the executive is also the judge, okay, the rights of the citizens will be violated like anything, because you are the person who violates the law also, and then you will be the judge also. You will be violating the fundamental rights, and then you are the judge also. So, that can be a very pathetic situation. In fact, in American system and all, there is a clear-cut separation of power between executive, judiciary, and the and the legislature. But in India, since we have a parliamentary form of government, since our parliament, the members of the parliament are the executives, the majority, the people who get the majority in the parliament can become the executive. The between executive and legislature, the separation is not that easy in India. There is overlapping of legislature and executive. But Article 50 very clearly says that, see, if separation of power is not there, it can lead to tyranny. Okay, separation of power can lead to tyranny. The people may become, the executives will go berserk, nobody to question. Even now, one of the biggest issue right now is the judiciary is not doing its duty properly. If the judiciary is becoming more and more compliant to what the executive is saying, or if judiciary is more than happy with the executive, then this can lead to a serious problem in our country. So let us hope judiciary will do its responsibility properly, separation of judiciary from executive properly. Judiciary should not be waiting for getting some benefits from the executive. Like the former Chief Justice of India, Mr. Gogoi, he has taken up a political post. He has been nominated to the Rajya Sabha. So that separation of if you look at the spirit of the separation of judiciary from executive, the judiciary members cannot take up such responsibility, a political post. See, if he is taking up as a National Human Rights Commission chairperson or even a governor, still we may adjust. But now he has joined politics. He has become an MP, a Rajya Sabha MP. Tomorrow, if he becomes the candidate, the chief ministerial candidate for BJP in Assam, so that is something unimaginable. So separation of power should be in letter and spirit. And the judges should not be waiting for some posting to be given by the executive. So that separation is a very important component of our for a vibrant democracy. Judiciary should act as a separate pillar, and judges, see, the executive can do something, but judiciary can check whether they are constitutional or not. A legislature can make law, but judiciary should that judicial review is there. So any action taken by the executive or any law passed by the legislature can be reviewed by the judiciary. That is why separation of judiciary from executive and legislature, of course. It's very important. That is a very important Western liberal principle. So these are the Western liberal principles in our Indian Constitution. So if you look that way, which are they? And if I add one by one, once again, so first of all, Article 39A. Article 39A, then we have Article 44, that is Uniform Civil Code, so free legal aid, then Article 44, then Article 45 for early childhood care for children up to the age of 6, then we have 48A, protection of environment, protection of wildlife and forests, and Article 50, separation of power from between a judiciary and executive. All are Western liberal principles incorporated into our directive principles. Coming to the ideals of freedom struggle. Ideals of freedom struggle. See, we have fought this, independence for decades, and the freedom fighters, they were not knowing when will we get the freedom and all. They were not there. There was no clue about that. They continuously fought for the rights, and finally we managed to get it, as we know very well, in 1947. So some of the provisions which are incorporated in the Indian Constitution are because of their lofty ideas, great ideals, which they had when they were fighting for independence. One is this Article 49. One ideal of ideals of freedom and one directive principle. Article 49, protection of monuments and places and objects of national importance. Protection of monuments and places and objects of national importance. Places and objects of protection of monuments and places and objects of national importance. So it shall be the obligation of the state. It's very clearly mentioned, it is the obligation of the state, that means the country, to protect every monument or place or object of artistic or historic interest, and to be of national importance from spoliation, disfigurement, destruction, removal, disposal, export, etc., etc. We would like to protect our monuments, our artifacts, our historical objects, our heritage. Article 49 talks about that. It is a duty. See, this is an ideal of the freedom. See, we want to protect, we have to cherish our golden history. We have more than 5,000 years of history. We would like to protect that at any cost. We don't want to give up on this. So that is why Article 49 and Article 51. This is purely the ideals of freedom struggle, especially the Nehruvian ideology, promotion of international peace and security. Just see, we want our directive principles of state policy. The directive is talking about promoting international peace and security. It says promotion of international peace and security. See, and if you read this article, Article 51, you may not even think that it is a directive principle of Indian Constitution. It may look like a UN charter. It says promote international, the state shall endeavor. See, 51A, state shall endeavor to promote international peace and security. International peace and security. 51B, it talks about maintain just and honorable relation between nations. Just and honorable relations between nations. Just and honorable relations between nations. Then 51C, it talks about foster respect for international law and treaty obligations. Respect for international law and treaty obligations in the dealing of organized people with one another, but respect for international law and treaty obligations. And finally, 51D, it talks about encourage settlement of international dispute by arbitration. Encourage settlement of international dispute by arbitration. Encourage settlement of international dispute by arbitration. So just see these 4 articles, and if you are not told that it is part of directive principle, you may wonder, you may think that it is something related to UN. No, it is Article 51 of the Indian Constitution. It is an ideal. See, Nehru was a global leader. It is not a stage managed show in those days. He was truly the spokesperson, or he was truly the leader of the third world countries. He was truly the leader of the countries who were coming out of colonization, especially in Asia and Africa. He was an undisputed leader. He was respected by the rest of the world. Nehru had great stature at that time. It is not like the present day stage managed shows across India, Howdy Modi and all. It's not like that. It is when Nehru used to visit those countries, people used to line up to see him, a glimpse. Of course, there is no TV, there is nothing, so only physical presence. So people used to travel kilometers or distance. They used to cover a lot of distance just to have a glimpse of our Prime Minister Nehru at that time. And he was respected. He had a great vision for the world. He wanted peace. He wanted democracy. He wanted socialism. So that is why, because of his special interest in all these things, Article 51 of the Indian Constitution talks about the promotion of international peace and security. And so there was a question also a couple of years before in the preliminary exam. They asked, 4 statements were given. Which of them are part of Article 51? It was asked. See, promote international peace and security. Number 2, maintain just and honorable relationship between the countries, between the nations. Foster respect for international law and treaty obligation. And finally, encourage settlement of international dispute by arbitration. So these are the two, I mean two of them in the ideals of freedom struggle, that is 49 and 51 can be termed as part of ideals of freedom struggle. And the Western liberal principle, I already said 39A, 44, 45, 48A and 50. Please don't forget, in preliminary exam especially, these things are very important. Every year, almost every year, we have at least one question related to directive principles in preliminary. You should be knowing that we are classified into 4 groups. We have socialistic principle, Gandhian principle, Western liberal principle and ideals of freedom struggle. Article 38 to 51, we are classified like this, very important, especially for preliminary point of view. Yes, you have to memorize these articles and what is mentioning about that. Some of the components I have already mentioned in between, so please take it very seriously. It's a very important discussion I have made. So now this is all about the classification of the directive principles. Now I will be talking about other small topics, so in the subsequent videos.